Right, guys, welcome to the pub. I'm absolutely delighted with the progress we've made over the last 30 pubs. This is actually our 30th, and we're very likely to change the format, so this might be the last pub in this format, but don't be dismayed. We'll come back with something else. So, first of all, thank you very much to the guests who regularly joined us on this call. It's been a real privilege. Very much appreciate your thoughts in terms of what the format might be moving forwards as well. What we set out to do was to have an open and honest discussion of the unfolding challenge. And to be honest, I think with our 29 guests from all kinds of walks of life, we've pretty much exhausted that. And also to describe what the solution is. And I'm really delighted today we're actually going to share some insight into the solution from the, from people who've actually partaken in the crux of what we're talking about, which is the Winning Thinking program. So really looking forward to what the guys, what the cohorts of people who've been through the Winning Thinking process, what their experiences, and share that with you. So hopefully that will be very insightful in terms of describing what we're talking about. The crux of this really is around misaligned action. So this is something we've been going on about, and fixing the right problem. And that then forms the basis of a jazz band, which is a very closely knit, intimate group of people with very clear communication between us, taking action the whole time. I'm delighted to say we've got an incredible group of people who've on this call who'll be sharing their thoughts. Everybody from Ollie, the former Rugby Sevens captain, which is just extraordinary privilege. Laura, from a senior manager in the recruitment industry. Tim, who's an insolvency practitioner. Richard, who is well known in the sort of banking finance startup community. So through to Ton, who's a very experienced turnaround CEO, and a couple of other guys who are very experienced finance directors. So really extraordinary sort of diverse perspectives. So just to recap, what we've found out of these pubs is the main themes have been intimacy, the importance of intimacy with each other, and that's very much the crux and the basis of profits. And there's also been a rediscovery during this period of time of love and connection. There's been some major buying shifts. There's a real importance to do the right thing, and there's a real focus on local and community as well. So whereas things have been global, actually there's a real refocus on bringing things closer and more intimately to our, our local communities. Alongside that, there's been a failure to take new action, which is the reason why we're going to change our action as well, change the format of this. And I think the other aspect is the jazz band really is actually encouraging misalignment, because it's us people on the call who actually steer the ship in the right direction rather than people following the script. So I think that's another theme that's come out of this. So and that very much survival depends upon us taking new action. So again, David McLean has talked every week, and I have, about taking new action, the challenge with that. And this is actually an example of us actually taking new action in our own spheres of influence, in our own individual ways. So I'm really delighted, actually. I'm really looking forward to this session. I think it'll be really fun, informal, but hopefully give a real insight into, what does good look like, and the extraordinary nature of the human being, frankly, and what does, what enables us to perform at our best. So anyway, over to you, Tim, to excuse me, share your thoughts on your observation, your main action, and then how does the jazz band fit in a couple of minutes, and we'll go around the whole team. So over to you, sir.
And thanks for putting me on the spot there, Tom. Appreciate that. So I joined Smith & Williamson right in the middle of the pandemic, so the middle of July, and sort of my starting objective coming here was, well, actually, how do I protect our clients? How do I use my my restructuring background and my skill set to protect our clients, to help rescue them, and help prevent them fail at the end of the day. So I think the main observation for me in the Winning Thinking program is in unsettling times to put people first, which sounds, there's lots of you can go quite deep with that. It sounds quite simple and straightforward, but actually when you really get into that and get under the skin of it and think about it, it's actually quite profound. So, you know, my first port of call, and what we always do in the profession is we go around the firm and we tell people what we can do. So you just go around and you present to people, right, this is how I can help your clients. But actually, by putting the other partners first and actually thinking more in their shoes, I was thinking, well, these guys are under pressure to deliver. They're busy. They're you know, there's all these new regulations. They just don't have necessarily the time to be having these conversations with all the clients and having these difficult conversations with the clients. So my thought process turned from, actually, rather than just presenting to them, it's actually, how do I actually help them? How do I actually sit alongside them and really help them to actually reach out to their clients in a better way? And what it's led to is just us working much closer. It's led to a much more sort of team-based approach, and as a result, you know, we are identifying issues earlier in our clients, and they are getting me in front of our clients earlier than would otherwise be the case. So that's been brilliant. They do still have quite a lot of time pressure, which does make it very difficult to have the right conversations. That's my next mission, is to try and actually really help them, you know, in their kind of processes and actually the way they work. So that's my next action and my next mission. I mean, in terms of how this all links in with the kind of, with the sort, you know, with the sort of jazz band, that things are, I mean, we're in uncharted waters. Things are changing all the time. We're in, you know, the whole society is adapting. I think, you know, as problems change, solutions change, we need to be open to all these, you know, we need to be working together. We need to be collaborating. We need to be, you know, and adapting in a kind of, I say, in a collaborative way. And that's what has, that has, you know, that whole kind of situation, I guess, has led me to actually take the action to contact Tom to get on the Winning Thinking program and actually get involved in the whole jazz band. So yeah,
that's fantastic. That's a real breakthrough, Tim. I think, you know, for somebody who works in a transactional environment to talk about putting other people first, that's a pretty extraordinary breakthrough. So well done, good job. Thank you for that. Laura, over to you. What are your thoughts?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Firstly, I guess, so for me, I moved into a new role for a new sort of setup that we've done at Eximius for Eximius Executive during the pandemic. So similar to Tim, kind of going into a new position during this rather different time. I think the main thing for me has been focusing from sort of the sessions is definitely focusing on being kind of making sure that I'm not in autopilot all the time. I think moving from one role, you can easily transition and use the skills that worked well previously and just kind of keep going with that. But this kind of process has made me really think about introducing new skills, making sure that I'm challenging myself constantly. And even if something is working really well and has proven to done, you know, sort of over the last few years, actually making sure that I'm introducing new action and challenging everything that we're doing. So that's definitely been more on the process side of things. So knowing that something works well, not necessarily going with it, but joining things like this to get new ideas from different people, even in different industries, and understanding how those actions can transfer into what I'm doing. So something that's definitely been more prevalent for me is reaching out to more people, getting their opinions on things, asking them how they built their successes in different areas, and kind of using those to create a new action for myself and our team. So introducing those ideas to the team, which links back more to the jazz band concept, I guess, of how I can bring those ideas in personally, but also then share them with others to kind of make sure that we're all syncing up well together. So that's been the main one for me, along with the sort of generalizations thing, which I know you touched on earlier, Tom. That was massive for me. You realize how many people generalize statements. So yeah, really drilling down to being more specific about what the problem is, as opposed to being very general about the overarching concept, just kind of actually drilling down to what the problem is and how we can overcome such a small thing rather than a big issue.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And it's so easy, Laura, I think, to, you know, to get stuck in a rut, and for you to be looking outside and challenging yourself is so healthy. So well done. That's fantastic. David McLean, what about your observations?
Scribbling away there, sorry. Yes, so my background, as I think most of you know by now, is psychology and psychotherapy. I've worked with Tom for quite a while now. And there's so I've been involved in this kind of space for quite a while. And the two kind of main key points that I take away personally and that I see in others is, and again, I don't apologise for saying the same things, actually, because one of the key principles of creating change in your life is repetition. So there'll be a lot of bits that will be repeated here and today, I'm sure. And it's new action. And also how little people actually create original thinking. And by original thinking, I mean something new, not specifically original thinking and like writing white papers, but I mean specifically thinking of something new within themselves. Yeah. We as human beings take from the pool of knowledge that we have, and if we simply scale somebody on a 0 to 10 and somebody's a 5 out of 10, then they can only really take from the pool of knowledge on that kind of area that they're in. And this is why new thinking is quite difficult and why new action is very important. Thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, and actions produce results. That is the format for human behaviour in terms of any action that we get at the end up. So thoughts are vitally, vitally important, and to create that new thinking is vitally important to be able to move forward. So personally, in terms of new action, I've been making sure that I do some sort of form of exercise 5 times a week now. Again, as most of you know, I'm sure, exercise, particularly cardiovascular, creates serotonin. Serotonin is directly linked to motivation, so that all works in terms of making myself a kind of better version of myself. And also, I've been giving myself specifically 30 minutes a day. I live on my own, so that's quite easy. 30 minutes a day at the end of the day to really take some time to specifically think. Because I'm the same as everybody else, even although we know what we're talking about, hopefully. Thinking is still quite hard work. So I've been taking the time to specifically think through and take time to create that kind of original thinking, in inverted commas, within myself to be able to move forward and become a better version of me and to be able to support everybody that I work with.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think in terms of understanding what new thinking or new action is, it's not necessarily something radical. It's actually just something new for us. It's about taking new action for us. Exactly. So it's not necessarily, technologically radical. It can be very simple, but extraordinary.
Generally,
yeah.
As we say, generally, it's exactly it. It's not one of the other key principles of change is marginal gains. It's small changes. We're all looking for where's that big thing to do, and because we can't find it. Then we just wait and we're stationary. So it's a new action. It's just getting off and getting the momentum going.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, David. That's excellent. Thank you very much. So another David, a different David, but just as good a David Burton. Over to you.
That's very kind of you. Thanks, Tom. So I'm the David Burton who I'm what I call permanently resident on planet Cash. So I train as an accountant. I've moved into turnarounds in the last sort of 4 years or so. So being an accountant, finance director type thing there, I think there are 2 things that are important. The first one is precision. This is sort of doing things right. The second one is adaptability, which is finding out the right things to do. So this, I think, makes me in the jazz band the drummer. The drummer, every organization needs a beat. It also needs sort of some way of navigating and some way of finding its way into the future. Typically the finance department does form the foundation for that kind of thing. It also not only keeps the beat, it helps you to look at the horizon, where you may, what the audience might be looking for, what we should be playing in this jazz band, and how we can assemble ourselves to do it. And that's really important with the degree of uncertainty that we face as UK PLC gets back on its feet. So anyway, the Winning Thinking program, I think, taught me 2 main things. First one is that precision, all great, but we can't really be precise in these uncertain times. So I call it applied precision. So as we move to the new normal, we sort of don't lose sight of the foundation, but we know how to apply them in different ways. And the second thing is there's an important difference, which I didn't fully appreciate, between IQ, that's your capabilities and so on, and EQ, which is how you apply them among your colleagues. So 2 things specifically I've taken away, actions I can sort of follow up on. One is to be specific. Like Laura, I've caught myself many, many times just talking in generalities. And so I've sort of developed a test for myself. Can I action that, or does it lead to anything? If it can't lead to anything, it's just a general blanket statement, then that's all very nice, but it doesn't actually advance you very much.
Yeah.
So self-challenge, very important if you're being too general. And over time, the specific nature of things that you do, if they lead to action, is it becomes routine. And the second thing I've learned is getting closer to people, because when you go into a new assignment, it's people who make progress. You can lead it, or you can at least encourage it, but individual actions lead to collective change. And if you can encourage that by providing space for thinking and encourage and motivate the right actions, then you get the right results.
Yeah, it's fantastic, David. I think your point there about leaving space for that new action, and it's just extraordinary breakthrough. So well done. That's excellent. I think as well, in terms of picking ourselves up on our own communication, so important. It's just making ourselves aware of that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're creatures of habit, and habits. I think Ton was saying take 66 days to change.
Yeah.
So we've only been doing this about 15 days, so it will take time for these to become normal.
Yeah, brilliant. That's excellent. Thank you very much, Martin. What about you, sir?
Yeah, hi. So thanks for inviting me today.
Welcome.
So I've been with the jazz band probably for about a month, and working with Winning Thinking for 3 or 4 weeks now. My first observation was actually reasonably simple and very similar to Tim's, that in this environment, more heads are better than one. And I've been privileged to work with quite a wide, experienced group of professionals now from all different backgrounds, with CEOs, operations, sales, engineering, finance, professional services, psychology, orientated people. They've all got different experiences, and they're all from different backgrounds. And it's just given me the opportunity to bounce ideas off different people at the end of the day, which has been really helpful for me, and maybe helpful for the others in their own personal development in what is quite a tricky time, I think. So that's the first observation. The second one is that I'm quite operationally focused, and a major part of the roles I do is about business improvement. And one of the key things that came out of the Winning Thinking was looking at transforming capability and working with wider groups of people in the business to understand what the real problem is, to get to the very bottom of it, to be able to solve it. And I've put that into play with a business I'm working with at the moment in the West Midlands, to try and get to the bottom of well, they've got some serious systems problems. And ordinarily I would have done that from the top, but this time I've done it from the bottom, working with the people who are actually using it, and finding out far more by working at the bottom and coming up to find out what the problems are. And that's been a real kind of revelation for me. So the two things I've taken away from this then is to start using wider thinking, and also to have better collaboration with a more rounded group of people. So,
yeah, fantastic. Yeah, a lot of those things you referred to there, Martin, actually require a lot of courage. So well done. You're really stepping out into a different modus operandi.
Yeah,
it's great. Tom, what about you?
First of all, I would like to say something that you don't want to hear, but I will do it anyhow. And that is thank you for facilitating these pub sessions. This is the 30th. That is quite an achievement. And someone has to do it, right? And it gave at least me, but many others, the opportunity to listen in and to discuss matters with a very diverse group of people, similar to what we have today. But we have seen different nationalities and all the other elements, that make people actually different, and look at issues from my perspective, their personal perspective. And what we have learned during all these conversations, and also in offline conversations with the team members, is that this perspective and this input that comes from all different angles and directions in the end leads to questions, combining ideas,
and end up with the best possible solution for any specific problem. So I would like to thank you for that, for that action, because someone has to start it, and you did. Before I joined the team, I was, like many of us, sitting, in this very specific set of conditions that COVID has presented us with at home, and just thinking, why is nothing happening? Why are people not taking action? It is obvious that we know for 70-80% how the future is going to look like. We do know that we need to move. We do know that we have to change. And it sort of appeared that nobody was doing it. So you feel very alone. And once you get, become part of a team like this, you see there are many others that have similar thoughts and say, that it's time for new action. This inertia should stop. We need to move forward. I still think we're, as a team, in that way that, we look at it after 30 pub sessions, that in general, UK PLC, if you like, is not moving ahead as quick as we might like. I think one of the problems is people. What we have learned during these weeks and months, as a matter of fact, that the old adage, first strategy and then people, is actually no longer relevant. What is important is getting the right type of people on board, getting the team on board, people that look from all different angles, and then together we'll help to define what the next steps in your company, in your organization will be. So it's now people first and then strategy. And I think that's where the analogy with the with the jazz band comes from, that rather than having a classical orchestra that just gets a sheet of music and then says, okay, that means that we need 2 people to play the violin and 3 people to play a trumpet or whatever, and then a conductor, and that's what we're going to play. Now it's no. We have this set of musicians, people that can move in all sort of directions, help each other to grow in whatever direction is needed, and they together will determine what the next steps will be. And I think that is a fundamental shift in thinking. That is a shift that I would say UK PLC, but everywhere in fact in the world, people should start embracing and should start working towards, because this state of surprises, new environment, it will not go away. I think we have moved into a new era. It's a complete new reset. And one of the things that I strongly believe, and that joining the pub and joining the conversations with all of you have actually only made my belief stronger in that respect, is that we need to be flexible, and that we need to be able to adapt our plans and our actions towards a constantly changing environment. And I think that's what the pub has provided me with that sort of insight and that particular belief. So yeah, that's where I would like to leave it for now, because the train says moving again.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Tom. It's very, very kind of you to say that. I think it is all about that flexibility. It's about yeah, absolutely. It's about people first. Yeah, brilliant. Love it. Ollie, although you've got Jens badge on, so
I'm liking my new alter ego now of being Jens. Yeah. Right. I mean, a lot of things have already been sort of said, so without trying to sort of reiterate and regurgitate, I think in terms of practical things that I've taken away as a process, holistically, it's been brilliant for me just to hear and share in different experiences from people, if you like, and actually have a bit of a process to go through in order to sort of spark new thinking and new ideas from my own personal perspective. Because to David's point, I probably don't carve out enough time to actually sort of sit there and then think and think about the outcomes and behaviors that I'd probably like to elicit. And then in terms of some of the practical things, it's made me just sort of reflect a bit more on actually listening to people and letting go of the reins a little bit more. So actually sort of, in order to build trust, commitment, some of the things that we spoke around, and to work with purpose, yeah, and it wasn't always the case in sport, but it was to, let go of the reins and trust in those people around you, like trust in the people that are going to take the field to do their job. And it doesn't always happen because of time pressures, financial pressures, whatever else. And you try and sort of be the all singing, all dancing person. You don't actually realize you're doing it some of the time. So that's been a really sort of useful, reflective process for me to go through and try and utilize moving forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. I think, a point came to mind when you were speaking there in terms of sometimes I think we think we're doing things when we're actually not actually acting on some of this stuff. So you talk about listening, but actually are we listening, or whatever these challenges are, and it's about stepping out into that place. But yeah, fantastic. That's great. Thank you very much for that perspective. What about you, Richard? You've got the right badge on. Congratulations. So what were your thoughts?
Got the right badge on now. Yes, I was Jens as well before. For a few
yeah, I don't know why. But,
so as the founder of a relatively early stage business, I guess if David's the drummer, I'm probably the treble sax in terms of the fact that I'm always in danger of going off into one, and in a number of different ways. And I guess my key takeaway from the sessions that we've had over the last few weeks, which have been absolutely fantastic, is all about purpose and the fact that business is personal, and the reverse is also true. Entrepreneurialism is a highly, highly personal thing. And we hide behind this mask of determination and resilience as founders. We expect that in others. And yet, over the last few months particularly, but well before that as well, there's pain, there's trauma when things don't go right, when you don't know how payroll is going to get met this month and so forth. The personal bit, to go on to what David McLean was saying earlier on, the personal, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
Looking after yourself is actually great for your business. It's necessary for your business. And getting that balance right between fixing what's going on within yourself and fixing what's going on with your business. They seem like very different things. Fixing what's going on in the business is practical and it's task driven, and you can achieve one step and then another step and then another step. Looking after yourself, well, that's what happens after 8 o'clock in the evening when you finish work, right? Yeah. And probably involves watching crap TV and having a drink. Yeah. No, I mean, there are these enormous tensions there. But I guess one of the key takeaways from me, and I was talking with my little group, Laura and Ollie and David Burton, over the last few days about inner anger. There's stuff going on in my business that frustrates me and makes me angry. And so the resilience to deal with that and the calm to be able to realize that others need to be managed, others on our team and others within our hinterland of individuals with whom we engage need us to support them in having the resilience to do the things that they need to do best. So it's not just about me, it's not the personal me, it's about the personal of everybody in the team. And in a sense, therefore, and I'm kind of glad that I'm the last person to speak, maybe we're finding out to you, Tom, it's not about the jazz band, it's about all of these interlocking jazz bands.
Yeah.
Because we've got in our own lives lots of jazz bands. We have our family groups, we have our business groups, but they all interlock with everybody else's. And the real magic, I think, happens when you start to connect different groups who are individually on tune.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I love it, Richard. I think our well-being is so interconnected with other people. It's just extraordinary, and I think you're right. It's very easy to put our own well-being, or not actually give our own well-being enough time. So yeah, that's really amazing. I think what I'd like to add, and also David, if you're David McLean, if you're okay, just to sort of try and summarise this discussion, because you're by far the most qualified person to do that. But I think for me, first of all, it's a real privilege, guys, to work with you. And I think you can feel the intimacy in terms of the open communication we've had, talking about some quite difficult things for us personally, and actually stepping out into those places. It's extraordinary in terms of relationships. So for me, it's a real privilege to be in that place and to work with you. So I think what I've noticed, having actually run about 3 or 4 of these things and actually participated, is that with practice, my sheet of paper has almost become completely clean. So rather than saying things like, I already do this, rather like what you were saying, David, and you, Martin, and others. Actually, that's completely switched off. So my ability to start from a clean sheet of paper and take actions. Actually, I'm taking actions now without really even thinking about it. Don't even need to write them down. It's sort of, and I think practice is great. I think as well, practical action about fixing the right problem, actually recording the EQ related things. David, you mentioned EQ versus IQ. Actually recording that, because that's actually the right problem to fix. And even in the turnaround, whilst we're talking about financials, the EQ is absolutely critical, because that stops us putting our pricing up and getting our business working right. So that's hugely important. And I think one of the most staggering things you said, Tim, was it's the only spreadsheet you've ever actually gone back to use, which is extraordinary. I think it's a very interesting journey, I think. So that's great. So I think as well, I noticed in the engagement, Tom, you had with Kevin, that engagement was very interesting in terms of having a winning thinking approach for two very experienced senior managers. And you had a different style to Kevin. And there were some elements in there which certainly challenged his thinking in terms of that leadership skills do not need to change. So that was really great to see that all in action. I think the thing about the shifts, it's about picking up language. I find myself stopping mid-sentence and challenging myself as other people do, and that's great. It's great we challenge each other. And I think it's, if we don't have jazz bands around us, we've got very little chance of steering the ship. So I think this notion of having the 100-day plan and expecting everybody to follow it, which was very much Kevin's mandate, which is absolutely what I've done most of my career, to be honest. I think it's become so clear over this point of time. So over these 30 sessions, we've refined this. We've developed the concept of a jazz band. We've applied it. And I'm absolutely delighted to I've been able to work with you guys. So let's keep it going. So I think the last thing, I think the stakes are very high. So we were talking about a project earlier where the profitability wasn't right. The owner hadn't got the confidence to put up their pricing, and actually they were beginning to bend the financials to suit that situation. So don't underestimate the power of mantras if things get difficult. And then there's a challenge in terms of, are you taking the right action in that particular situation? There was putting more asset-based lending into a business when in fact it was fixing the wrong problem. So it's actually really important, even when we've got these skills, notwithstanding it's difficult to do this work, that we do actually address the right problem, and that does require courage. So beware of that, guys. I think in terms of watching the deviating actions that can take place, it does require courage. But I applaud you all for your own actions, and it is a whole raft of simple stuff. It's not it's new things for us. They may be the same things for other people, but that's absolutely fine. It's about taking your action. So that's what I'd contribute. So David, over to you, sir, just to wrap up the discussion. We're doing pretty well on time, so you've got about 3 hours to finish the conversation.
Perfect. I could fill that easily. No, honestly, what a fantastic session we've had, and sometimes these conversations can be seen, or these kind of groups can be seen kind of sycophantic, praising each other, and I think I would hope that everyone can see the genuineness and that we've all got here in terms of for each other, but also obviously individually in terms of what we're speaking about. Where to start? Fixing new problem, intimacy, the importance of new action obviously has come up often. Importantly, has come up often. Some of the key points I thought, Richard, as usual, really heartfelt, really, really great. The way that you're able to explain yourself and explain things, I've always enjoyed that. Yeah. And it's so important, the points that you brought over today. Taking original thinking, I suppose, if you like, to a new level. And I also like that point from you, Laura, about the generalizations. We all do it, and it's something that I still pick myself up for when I'm talking to my son or whatever it is. I'm like, oh God, that's completely wrong. And it's such an easy thing to do. And of course, when we're more aware and more conscious aware, then it'll be something that I'll bring that back, if you like. And David talking about precision as well, and focus and awareness, and really, none of this is necessarily hard work. The point I always like to make is that change is simple. It's just not necessarily an easy thing to do. And so what we're talking about here, it's not rocket science, but it's about the application, it's about the focus, it's about the awareness, all these words that we've been using a lot of today. The key, that kind of conscious awareness, if you like, to make sure that we're all aware of what we're doing and aware of when we need to act. Yeah, I've very much enjoyed these last 30 sessions. And thank you, Tom, and thank you to all the panelists as well. And I'm very much looking forward to what's coming next.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. I think just to summarise this, we are going to change the format of this moving forwards. Not sure what it's going to be. Value anybody's thoughts on that. I think we have certainly got a very clear perspective. The main suggestion, for what it's worth, and it gets refined on a daily basis, is what we've talked to you today about. So encourage anybody to join us on this exciting process. I think without which, frankly, I think there's very little chance of steering the ship in the right direction. And what is extraordinarily difficult, turbulent times, I think we should not underestimate the importance of maintaining relationships as well, and that intimacy. It requires a lot of continuous work, a lot of love for each other, and it requires a different perspective, which effectively blows most MBAs into the weeds. And it's all about taking new action. If there's one thing that MBAs admit they can't do themselves, is to take new action and drive new behaviours. So well done to all of you. I'm really, really delighted, and thank you for your contribution, and thanks for your contribution to the pub, guys. So great.
Cheers, Tom. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a great day.
Pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.